our whole year, is kind of geared towards getting ready for nationals and competing and trying to, add to the tremendous legacy that is Morehead. And I'm always ready for two-a-days. Like, I think about halfway through the semester, I start being like, all right, I'm ready to, get to the grind. And I think most of them look at it that way. It's such a tremendous honor with so much talent on the team this year, and then just the rich tradition. That's why people come to cheer at Morehead.
We are a mindset that every practice is a nationals practice. So from August to January when we compete, we always have our mindset on the gold. And so come Christmas break, when everyone else leaves, we stay. We have 2 practices a day, every day. It's a long journey, but it brings everyone who is on mat closer together.
The university had about 4 to 5 weeks off from school for winter break, and we stayed here practicing 2 hours, 2 times a day, every day of the week. And in those practices is where the routine came together and the team came together to produce a championship product.
You basically don't have any energy to do anything in between besides eat and lay and watch Netflix. But that's where all the skills start to come together. You start getting conditioned to do the routine full out, and yeah, it's a pretty stressful and tedious and sore process.
Co-ed practice, like I said, is really intense in itself, as well as all girl. We both practice and both pride ourselves on how rough and intense our practices can be, especially this year with all the adversity that we had faced.
I try to keep them on a similar schedule. Like in the 2-a-days, the teams are practicing once in the morning and once in the afternoon. I try to mimic that schedule as much as we can when we're in Florida, so that their bodies are kind of staying on the same schedule and that they're mentally kind of prepared at the same times of the day. But I also want to keep them, kind of focused on what we're doing. It's a business trip as far as I look at it. Go down there and handle our business, and I want them, I try to have, we get on the bus and then we get off the bus and we check in the hotels, and then we go practice, and then we come back and we get ready and we go eat, and they're one thing after another, so there's not a lot of time to, if there are people that are nervous, and I try not to give them a lot of time to sit and think about things. Let them keep them on a schedule, keep them moving, and kind of keep them as close to what we've been doing leading up to nationals as possible, just so that they can stay physically and mentally sharp.
Practices down there, they're a lot less stressful. They're a lot more about just performing and kind of showing off. We always say, the championship is won in Weatherby. It's not won down there. You earn it in Weatherby, you go through the blood, sweat, and tears, and down there people just want to see you show off. And that's exactly what those football practices are. That's exactly what the practice was with Shelton State and Bama. You're just there to kind of get your trophy and show off what you've been working for the whole time. So those practices, you are Morehead, you do have the M on your chest, and people down there, as little as this school is, they know who you are down there. And they know the dynasty that Morehead is. So you have a lot of eyes on you down there.
Our family's there, we have all girl there, we have random people who just come to the football field to watch us because they know that Morehead State is on the football field practicing, which is really cool.
During your practices in Disney, it kind of becomes more real. I think just being in that Florida air and in that warm air, you can kind of feel it in the air. You can kind of feel the competition and, I don't know, maybe the anxiety that some people may be feeling. So I think they're a little bit more intense, but I think it helps to better prepare you for the actual competition itself.
Day 1 done.
Wonderful.
We got our run-throughs in the morning, so that'll be our next practice. So
what time's that?
10 a.m. Okay. We'll leave around whatever the schedule says, but around probably 8:45. Okay. Hey, awesome job. Back it up.
Morehead on 3. 1, 3.
Morehead!
We're on the bus for 15 hours, and sometimes we're practicing outside, so we don't really do the tumbling and stuff. So that practice time on the mat time is, an opportunity to get out and tumble and do their tumbling one more time before we compete the next day, because, bodies are probably a little stiff. They've been practicing twice a day, almost every day for 2 weeks since coming back from Christmas, and I think it's good to let them get out there. They've had a couple days to rest their bodies. Everybody's nursing injuries and aches and pains and stuff. So I think it's good to give them a couple of days where their bodies, they're not tumbling, which is tough on their joints and stuff. So I think giving them a couple of days, but also to get them out there and tumble one last time, one day before, I think is good. And so we did that in the morning, and then we went to a local high school there in Florida and had an afternoon practice.
It's so fun. Krista, the coach of Shelton, is Morehead alumni, and she's a Morehead cheer alumni. So we've always had a really great relationship with them. It is just, a small community college in Alabama, but it's a lot like here. We're just a small school in Kentucky. But down there, that name turns heads. So we have a great relationship with that team, and any chance, even at camp in Bama, when we get a chance to practice together, it's always a fun time.
And then we came back and kind of relaxed a little bit. We didn't have a ton of time, and then we went to the partner stunt competition on Friday night. So again, it's the schedule. There's not a lot of free time really.
We opened up the routine. It was solid, and our second stunt didn't go perfect the way I think we both had envisioned it, but we were able to kind of recover from it and maybe kind of play it off like everything went okay. And then from there, I think that was just us kind of like getting our nerves out, our final nerves, and then from there everything was just smooth sailing, and couldn't win any better.
Colin is an extremely talented cheerleader. He's one of the best stunners, on the planet. And I knew he was going to do well, but I told him that it was really important, because the last couple of years, Co-Ed, we hadn't gotten it done, we hadn't won. And I thought it was really important that we start the weekend off with a bang, and I told him that. And I was confident that he would, and Taylor too. I mean, both of them have a lot of competition experience. Taylor's been on Team USA and competed, and so, I was very comfortable that they were going to go out there and have a great performance. And I thought it was really important for the whole weekend that it set the tone, that we're here to do extremely well, and we're going to hit our routines, and we're going to win. And I thought it was, I even spoke to him about it, and so I thought it was really important that they went out there and had a great performance, and it was awesome that they won, and I was really happy for them to get recognized, because they're both extremely talented and have worked really hard. In awards, I think I almost passed out. I was really nervous, but it was cool. You're standing with everybody else that had competed, and shaking hands with everybody. It was really intense. Once they announced that we had won. Well, once they had announced second place, you kind of, through process of elimination, kind of realized that you'd won, and then they announce it. And Bill Seeley, the guy that was announcing awards, came up and put a microphone in my face, which he should have known better. And he said, "How does it feel?" And all I could say was, "It feels amazing." I mean, I wish I could have said more. It was kind of overwhelming. I think that's the only way to describe it. It was just overwhelming. It was a dream come true, and we were happy to represent this program.
In the co-ed partner stunt division, Morehead State University, Taylor and Colin.
We wanted to set the tone. We knew in warm-ups, Mark had came up to us and he was like, "Let's set the tone. Let's set the tone for the teams and give them something to build on." And that was a big focus too. I think that added to a lot of pressure, because we wanted to get started on that right foot and give our team something to build on.
Well, I know in semifinals I felt like I was sleepwalking. It was a little earlier than we were used to, so a lot of us were still half asleep. But I mean, semifinals was rough. It was definitely probably one of the worst performances we had put out since two-a-days started. I don't even think our first full out was that bad. But when we came off the floor, we knew it was a clean slate. We knew our skills and the difficulty alone would get us to finals. But we knew that we had to really prove a point. And we knew that we had to focus and just, let the jitters go, let the nerves that kind of came over us in semis go, and just really go out there and just hit like we knew we could.
In my case, I was part of the elite group that struggled through the elite sequence, which made our performance probably not one of our strongest ones. But I do have to say I'm very proud of my group, because the things could have gone a lot worse. We kind of talked each other through being able to hit all the elements that were in the elite, although they weren't executed as well as they could. But we all fought together, which was awesome. And then going into finals, lucky enough, there's a clean slate. So your performance in semifinals just gets you to finals, and then it doesn't matter for the final announcement of who will be the national champion. So from there, we all just kind of pulled together and said, do what we do best and hit that routine, and that we were better than that performance, and the world deserved to see a show. So we gave it to them. And I told them too, they hardly ever make mistakes.
I told him, I was like, if I gave you 2 chances to hit that routine, you would say, yes, absolutely, with no doubt, we could hit that routine. And I told him, you've got 1 more chance.
Please welcome the Eagles of Morehead State University.
Well, I think for me, especially because this was my last nationals with Morehead, I was just trying to take every last moment I could. So in warm-ups, I was literally sitting there and I was looking around. I was like, well, this could be my last time in here as a Morehead cheerleader. Just make the most of every moment you have. And in finals, we had such a different energy in finals than we did in semis. I mean, as soon as we knew what warm-up floor we were on, to just everything kind of fell into place from there, and we knew in the tunnel that we had it. We knew that we were going to go hit. We always said, like, all year, we wanted the new people and the people that weren't on mat last year to feel the feeling of what it's like to hit in finals, because there's literally no other feeling like it. And when we realized that we had hit and we just felt the energy throughout the whole routine, we couldn't wait to watch it again. So getting to live it again and watch, everyone else, I mean, you know what you did in your stunts, you know how they looked, but you don't know how it looked as a whole. So getting to just watch everything and how everything little things hit, and everything that we'd focused so much on, just getting to watch it again was just incredible.
We did the best that we could, and we were very proud of our performance. And we just said it was in the judges' hands, and whatever happened from there, we would be satisfied with, because we put out the best product we possibly could. But deep down, I had a feeling that it was ours. And so then to hear your name being called was just the icing of the weekend.
A lot of the girls in the team this year have never lost in college. The seniors, their first year that they lost, so they knew what that felt like, and they never wanted to have that feeling again. But when you've won and you've had that feeling, I just wanted to make sure that they stayed hungry, and I told them, you're going to have to want it as bad as the other teams that haven't won, and so I feel like we accomplished that, and that, I'm really proud of the fact that, this year was the first all-girl team that ever won 3 in a row. I mean,
co-ed's always been our biggest supporters. They're always our #1 fans. They're our family. They're the ones that are in the trenches with us. They're the ones going through the practices with us. So to have their support was absolutely amazing. But we had talked about it on the bus, and even before awards had even gone on for all-girl, that at the minute we get off the bus at the All-Star Resort to go watch them practice, our priority was co-ed. And we had our moment, but now it's time to put all the rest of our energy into supporting them and help them, take this one back to Morehead.
I know as a 5th year, a lot of this, a lot of nationals for me is just observing, taking everything in. So I know when we went out on the football field, it was just us at first. We were about to practice. And you could tell there were people with nerves. You could tell they were getting anxious. And the second all-girl ran out and with their medals, trophies, and just started hugging us, telling us it was our turn next, you could tell the spirits were just lifted automatically, and we were a lot more positive team, and we were just ready to go.
Before we went on, we all huddled up, and I brought everybody in and talked to them and said, hey, no matter what, we're family, and I love every one of y'all. Just a brief moment, but it felt like it lasted forever. We went out there and supported each other, knew no matter what happened that we had each other's back.
For 5 years, my parents have always sat in the same spot right out in the stands. So I walk out there, I always blow a kiss to them, get set, throw a couple high fives, then you go. My routine was great, and it was one for great one to end on. All my stuff hit pretty good, and I did a lot of tumbling this year, but it was great.
The routine went almost flawless. I think everybody it felt worse than it actually looked. I don't think it looked that bad, but I know a few of us were kind of beating ourselves up for it not being perfect. So from that time to awards was just a bunch of nerves. I mean, nobody knew. I mean, you never really know in cheerleading, but until they announce top 2, you have no idea. So I think everybody was just kind of holding their breath, and they were just as anxious as anybody to find out.
There was a lot of nerves with us. We were pretty silent walking out on the floor, hearts beating, really. But I think all in all, we knew we couldn't have done any better than we did, though.
2 outstanding programs.
It was very nerve-wracking. You know, I mentioned earlier about how, I'll put it out there, I thought we won last year.
That's like the most nerve-wracking part.
Morehead, Delaware, who's it going to be this year?
Our biggest competitor, Delaware, they hit a very good routine.
A lot of success.
We strive to be as perfect as possible and not give them any reasons to not give it to us.
Second place.
Whenever they start top two, you know, you're really waiting to hear what they have to say.
In the nation.
The University of Delaware. And your national champions, Morehead State University.
It was just an awesome weekend for the entire program because at the end of the day, when all girl and co-ed, we're both wearing Morehead across our chest. So,
this being my 5th and final year, after losing the last 2 years, I could not have gone out on a better way.
Saw Christian on the floor, you know, with his head in his hands, and I immediately just made a beeline for him, and I didn't care that we weren't allowed on the floor or anything, and I just went up to him. I said, "You did it. You finally did it." And he's, you know, crying, he's bawling his eyes out, and that was just one of the most incredible experiences that I will keep with me forever.
Just having that sweep with the partner stunt and the co-ed and the all-girl, you know, that was our moment, and I don't think Delaware wasn't taking that away from us. I think that show of sportsmanship is what the sport's all about. I love that, but that was kind of our moment to shine and kind of live and just bask in it. So it was really nice.